Hey everybody, welcome to the GM's Table. This is the first official new episode of our Let's Run Savage Worlds reboot. Mostly, we're going to go back, we're going to redo some of the older episodes now that our audio is better. However, this isn't a redo. I want to cover what I think is the best place to start with Savage Worlds, and that is the test drive rules and the one sheets. And if you're not familiar with those, they're 100% worth checking out because it's how you can play Savage Worlds for free. Okay, first, I want to talk about the test drive rules. I'm not putting every link down below. Honestly, Google Savage Worlds test drive. There are 3 really solid ones out there. All of these are by Pinnacle. All of these are official. There is Savage Worlds Test Drive V6, which doesn't have an adventure, but it is a very comprehensive set of the rules for free. This is really useful if you're already looking to GM something on the fly, something you're coming up with, or if you're running one of the one sheets we're going to cover, because it is just the rules and has a ton of stuff there. Now, it is not all the rules. It is not every bit. It is not the core book. But if you want a primer, if you want to give something to a new player where they don't feel overwhelmed, this is it. It actually has a ton of edges and ton of hindrance in it, and they don't go in full detail. Instead, it's single page lists with small descriptions, but it's a good cheat sheet for these kinds of things. Moving on from that, there are really 2 other really solid test drives. One is the newest one. It is the Savage Worlds test drive for Lankmar. I have not run this adventure. However, if you guys saw my Lankmar review, you'll know I am actually kind of dying to run Lankmar. Now, the test drive for Lankmar, it's the newest one, so it has the most updated rules, the most comprehensive. Given that this is kind of condensed rules anyways, the fact that it's the most up-to-date isn't a huge deal, but it does matter, and it can matter to some people. It also comes with the Lankmar Adventure Triple Cross, which, just glancing through it, looks like a ton of fun. I'll be honest, I haven't run this adventure, but it's great. It also comes with a bit more powers in it, because Lankmar has some special powers. It does. With most of these, they're not going to have a lot of the special rules just for the setting, but it's more than enough to play a game to see if you like the Lankmar setting. Finally, my all-time favorite test run. I use this adventure in campaigns, and that is the Wild Hunt. This is bog standard. This is modern horror. This is the characters are on a bus, the bus breaks down, they're stuck in this town that's actually haunted, that has this hunt master who can't die, which I think is very, very important for Savage Worlds, because it helps teach players who might be used to other games different avenues of problem solving. Because he can be defeated in combat, and then he just comes right back. And that's very important. This is an incredibly deadly adventure, but it also comes with everything you need to run it, including the rules. This is my personal go-to for teaching people Savage Worlds. My light's a little awful for those on video. Moving on from that, Savage Worlds, again, if you're not super familiar, also has what are called one-sheets. This is an entire adventure on one sheet of paper. It's typically front and back. The best part, these are free. These are free on Pinnacle's site. Honestly, Google Savage Worlds one sheets. It'll take you right to a link to the Pinnacle site of just the one sheets. I'm not going to cover every one sheet because on their site, for free, there are 75 one sheets. Okay? If you're in, now I'm going to bring up kind of some of my go-tos. If you're interested in Savage Riffs, I'm going to be honest, it's a little tricky to do Savage Riffs without the player's handbook because it uses the iconic frameworks and all of that. However, to make up for that, they have 5 one-sheets that are called a Find Solution, which is essentially a mini plot point campaign. It is a 5-part story. All of it's free. So if you somehow don't know about this, maybe you got into Savage Riffs after the Kickstarter, you hadn't found out about it, there is a free mini plot point for Savage Riffs for those of you who care about it. Moving on, my personal favorite setting, ETU, has a ton of one-sheets because when they did their Kickstarter, a bunch of stretch goals were one-sheet adventures. However, there are 2 that I think are standouts, and neither of these actually need the ETU book to run. As long as you play characters without arcane backgrounds, you're good. First is the Red Necromancer, which is about a redneck who's running a trailer park that's also a retirement community that turns out to be a necromancer. It's not much of a giveaway if it's in the title. It's a lot of fun. It gives a lot of flavor of the weirdness of ETU. And then the other one is Scavenger Hunt. This is actually the first one sheet that ever came out for ETU, and it's very, very important because a big part of that setting is having to go, and it's more or less, we know the spell we need to do, but we have a shopping list of weird things we have to get to attempt the spell. This is an adventure where the players aren't casting the spell. They don't have to worry about any of those rules. There's an NPC that is basically holding back shadow demons coming in, and they really, really need the players to go get the items for them. This gets the group used to the idea and familiar with the feeling of going out in this problem solving on how to get these items. It's also much looser. They can get the items in any order they want, so they can kind of go out and around. They might find more interesting ways to get the items. It's a good showcase of both the freeform nature of Savage Worlds and one of the cornerstones of ETU. Stumbling over my own words. I am sorry about that. Finally, there are a couple I think are just kind of classics. First, I hate when people say Savage Worlds only does pulp, but Savage Worlds does pulp very, very well. It does not only do pulp, and when you get into a lot of these one sheets, it's really worth it. However, Rumble in the Jungle is a classic Doc Savage, kind of Indiana Jones pulp adventure, and it is very, very well done. I strongly suggest this if you want to get a feel for the pulp side of Savage Worlds. And finally, most people do suggest if you're trying to convert your group from a game like, Dungeons and Dragons, to not do fantasy. But if your group's really set on, but we still want to do fantasy, Tomb of Terrors. This is kind of a riff/homage to the D&D Tomb of Horrors. It's a one sheet, so it is much, much shorter, but it gives you an idea of how dungeon delving works in a system like Savage Worlds, which runs really, really well. There is also, still flying around, I believe it's a Sword and Wizardry packet for Savage Worlds. Honestly, when I googled it, it didn't come up. So I might have to do a recap in a later episode telling you where to find it. But there is free rules floating around that has all the fantasy races. But really, in Savage Worlds, you just need human. So you do that test drive V6 rules. You don't let them take any of the modern gear. And boom. Or you let them take the modern gear and they go into Tomb of Terrors in the modern setting. And it's this lost tomb. And then you got to spin on it. Which, when it comes to Savage World, you're going to very much notice a lot of Savage Worlds is let's take something you know and put a spin on it. Now, honorable mentions, there are a ton of Deadlands one-shots. I didn't bring them because they're my favorite. There's a couple I love, but my list was already getting long. So if you want to get a taste of Deadlands, they got you covered. If you want to get a taste of the Savage World of Solomon Kane, they got you covered. If you're a fan of the Goon comic book, they got you covered. Same with Fear Agents. There's a ton. Like I said, there are 75 adventures there, all free. Anyways, that's why I suggest you get started with Savage Worlds, and next week we're going to go more proper into recovering and re-evaluating rules advice for Savage Worlds. But with that, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff if you're watching me on YouTube. If you're watching me on iTunes or Stitcher, subscribe because your guys' listening and downloads still counts to the YouTube, which helps. If you want to help out the channel more than that, check out the Patreon below. We have 6 patrons. I am very thankful for all of them. They're helping support this channel. We're looking at getting a URL for an official website. It's the main reason we were able to expand out into the podcast. You get videos early, you get access to adventures, all that fun stuff. You can find out there. There should be a link in even the description below. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.